G'day guys, Chris Dorry here. Today I'm going to go through 5 Moneyball off-season recruiting decisions. So, to me there's 3 trades and 2 free agency decisions that really stand out to me as being just incredible value gets. And really the sort of moves that you really as a club want to be looking out for in upcoming off-seasons. So, to go through the concept of Moneyball is it's something that's often spoken about but rarely understood well. So, it's really all about looking for guys who are very low cost, so you don't have to give up much in the way of players and picks, and you're also typically getting them on low salaries as well. Because they're the types of guys where if you can get that and they're going to play good footy for you, well, that's a huge edge for you. So, and it also gives you that, I guess you could say, potential future flexibility as well to keep adding to your list and keep improving your best 22. So, to go through them firstly, so the one that really stood out to me is Max Lynch to Hawthorn. So, the deal included, so going to Hawthorn firstly, so you had Max Lynch, you had Fremantle's 2022 third rounder, and you also had Gold Coast's 2022 fourth rounder. And all that was given up was the Hawthorn and Brisbane third rounders. So why that's such an incredible trade is for those who understand Hawthorn's list dynamics. So through the ruck, they really didn't have a lot. So they had McAvoy obviously over 30, Seglar, he's 30, he'll be 31 early next year. And then of course they had Reeves, so Ned Reeves, who's a capable young ruckman, but that only genuine good ruck under 30. So being in that situation, having only that one young ruck, well, you need a bit more than that. So what I'm seeing with that trade, so firstly they got rid of Seglar to Geelong. Well, that's fine. They didn't really have a need for him. He's not best 22, is 30. Move that sort of guy on. It is of better use to Geelong who need that genuine ruck. But with Lynch, I'm actually seeing an upgrade there. So he's a younger ruck and genuine competition in the long run for Reeves, and they're both those potential sort of, I guess you could say, AFL caliber best 22 types. So having two of those guys competing in the long run, and they're both young, they're both under 25. Well, Hawthorn, they've set themselves up where they won't be needing more ruckmen for a long time. So to me, terrific move and nothing much spent. So great job, Hawthorn. That's the sort of recruiting you want. And if you look at the history of all these ruckmen in the past that have gone on and had great careers, well, so many of them have been acquired for so little. And in the case of Lynch, it's a bit like with the Jared Witts situation at Collingwood previously, where 5 years ago, well, Witts moved on for more opportunity. He was even then known as a capable ruckman, but of course with Grundy being the number one, well, there wasn't ever that route to be a best 22 player. And Hawthorn, they saw the same, of course, and they've taken on that opportunity to get Lynch, who in the 2 games filling in for Grundy held his own. Matched up well against Riley O'Brien, held his own, didn't get embarrassed by any stretch of the imagination. And same story the next week against Max Gawn, backing up. He even won the hit-out count, which is phenomenal. So mobile around the ground, he's capable. So really like him, honestly, in that situation. And yeah, if they can get a best 22 ruckman out of him for that price, well, fantastic. So yeah, Hawthorn have really set themselves up well there. The next one on my list, so this is the second trade that really impressed me. So Sam Petrevski-Seaton going to West Coast. So obviously all that was given up was pick 52. And we also had Young from the Bulldogs also moving in that exchange as well, moving to Carlton. So just as a bit of, I guess you could say, key position depth, maybe ruck depth if they needed it. But incredible upgrade there for West Coast as someone who really has been very poorly utilised for a few years now. And he just really needs those midfield minutes. He should have got regular midfield minutes for Carlton and didn't. But yeah, going back a few years, he was a capable midfielder, and I think it's really just giving him that continuity of position and utilising him where he plays his best footy, I think really is the key with Sam. So do watch out for that. And then the other one as well. So Jeremy Finlayson, I thought was a good get for Port Adelaide. Not someone they had to get necessarily, but I do see him as a definite upgrade on Todd Marshall. So he's someone where he could even go for 2 goals a game. He's come pretty close for a few years. He's one of those guys where he really converts his opportunities into goals. So reliable in front of goal, makes the most of his opportunities. When you target him, he usually ends up with it. So quite a capable target and someone where, look, I think is a pretty reasonable get. So don't mind that at all for Port Adelaide. And given it was only a future third rounder, so 2022 third rounder, will bargain for someone who's pretty capable. So and obviously can be a best 22 player next year. But then moving on to the free agents. So these are two free agents who they're now former teams. They got no compensation at all. So what that indicates is that they're on incredibly small deals that are really good. And these guys are genuine best 22 players. So firstly, I'm looking at Luke Dunstan. So this is a personal opinion here, but for St Kilda, I actually thought based on his play in the second half of the year, I thought he was their second best midfielder. So better than Brad Crouch for me personally. Just looking at what he did as a contested ball winner, looking at his tackling, just really impressive in those areas. I know he can't kick. He's not that sort of guy who can impact games forward of centre, but he's one of those where if you know what he's good at and understand that and put him in those positions, I think is a pretty good piece. Where if you look at what he does in terms of whether it's ground ball gets, contested possessions, clearances, tackles, pressure acts, is top 30 in all those categories, inside 50s even. So in terms of all that sort of toughness, defensive stuff, winning his own ball, he's got all that in spades. And personally, I do believe that going to Melbourne, although incredible team, I think he could be a potential sort of fourth midfielder for them. So obviously you've got Petrarca and Oliver as the stars, Viney is that next best guy, but I wouldn't be surprised if Dunstan can be that fourth option through there and really a primary sort of heavily used midfielder. So that's what I'd be looking at. We'll have to wait and see. But in terms of their game plan, I actually do think he's actually quite a good fit, where just with how he pressures, how he wins the ball, I think in terms of, because with Melbourne, you've got all these guys who can take their intercept marks in defence. So having that pressure, well, that only makes life easier for those defenders. So, and you've got really a whole team that has that sort of defensive buy-in, bring those pressure acts. So I really do like Dunstan on Melbourne. So we'll have to wait and see, but I really like the pick. And for me, I feel like the last few years has been a bit underutilised and probably a bit harshly viewed for mine at St Kilda. But the other one, so Jake Kelly for Essendon. So obviously very good defensively. He can play sort of tall, small. He's got that sort of versatility there. But obviously defensively shores up Essendon's defence, which they've really needed. But on top of that as well, he's a capable interceptor. So having those components just as a really cheap get in defence, again, quite like him. I think that's a good get. So again, another genuine best 22 edition. And look, obviously it hurts Adelaide, but they did do obviously very well getting Dawson for, although it's not sort of part of my topic as not technically a Moneyball pick, but obviously that was a great trade with Dawson, someone where frankly sort of after you've had pick one and you've got your two father sons off the board, there's not really too many that you'd really pick over Dawson. So that's not really in the Moneyball category, but another great trade just to cover that. But yeah, for those that are interested in more of my content and have enjoyed what I've had to say, on espn.com.au, I've had quite a bit of content go up. So in really just today, you've got obviously my my review of the trade and free agency period. So I've given each club grades, reviewed every sort of player transaction, I guess you could say, and just sort of looked at sort of how good or otherwise those transactions have been. So I'd be interested to hear some thoughts on my opinions there. And also I've been involved in ESPN's podcast. So the most recent podcast, we obviously covered off on the trade and free agency period. And then I also dropped my first round phantom draft at the end. So if you're after any draft details and having a think about who your club might be looking at in the first round, well, make sure to check that out. And then I've also been part of the ESPN roundtable covering off, there were 4 questions asked about the trade periods. So yeah, that's also a good one. So I'll leave some links in the description below for those interested in that. But yeah, let me know what you think about these Moneyball picks. Were they good trades? Were they good free agency gets? For me, obviously, they're my top 5, but I'd be interested to know if you guys agree and have the same level of optimism about these guys as I do. But anyway, thanks guys. See you in the next video.